So do you think everyone is cut out for a long-term relationship?
I used to think so, but I certainly don't anymore. Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Kraftchick.
We're active daters turned dating sociologists.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to the DATEABLE podcast.
Before we get into this episode, a quick word from our sponsors that make it possible.
Did you know that the cause of health issues with so many dogs is their food? That was so astounding for me to find out because I tend to think my dog Mojo eats pretty well until I really researched the ingredients. And actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, says she's seeing more health issues with dogs than ever before. So she decided to create something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. I actually love giving Mojo this as a topper. It's like an extra treat for him. And I feel good that there are no fillers and it's air dried, so it retains more nutrients. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits, and so can your fur baby. Go to Badlands Ranch/Dateable and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to BADLANDS ranch.com/DATEABLE today.
Do you want to be transported back to being on the beach during your favorite vacation? I certainly do. Osea's Undaria Algae Body Oil smells like summer, bottled with all-natural, uplifting notes of mango, mandarin, grapefruit, lime, and cypress. And it's not just about that elevated scent. This body oil is clinically proven to instantly improve skin elasticity and deeply moisturize, leaving skin silky and soft. I've said it before, but I love this product. It feels like I am going to a spa every night, and it delivers that coveted post-vacation glow like you just returned from a tropical getaway. Right now, you can get 10% off your first order with our code DATEABLE at OseaMalibu.com. Get healthy, glowing skin for summer with clean vegan skin and body care from Osea. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DATEABLE at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. Head to OSEAMalibu.com and use the code DATEABLE for 10% off.
Hello, friends.
Welcome back to Dateable.
We are here for another great episode, this time with a repeat guest.
Yes.
Someone we had on, what was it? Season 9. Season 8.
Oh, yeah. Season
8.
Episode 19. Wow. Season 8. We're on 18. It's like a lifetime ago.
I know. I was like, season 19. No, we're not even there.
He's from the future.
Yet.
He's in the future. Yeah.
Season 8, episode 19. Mr. Ryan Van Duzer, a dear old friend of mine. We met through mutual friends in Beijing, actually. We're both traveling in Beijing. And it turned out we had a lot of mutual friends, even beyond this one mutual friend. And we stayed in contact. And I was living in New York at the time. He came and visited New York because his brother also lived in New York. So we just had this really fun group. And his best friend, one of his best friends, ended up marrying one of my good friends from New York. I set them up. I'm still really proud of it. They're married with 3 kids now. So just saying, it worked out really well.
Cupid.
Worked out really well. It didn't work out for Ryan. I was not able to set him up with anybody. He doesn't need to be set up with anybody, but that's why we have him on the show, because this guy is so interesting. He is an outdoor adventure TV host, YouTuber, filmmaker, and motivational speaker.
When you had him come on the first time, he was just recovering from a breakup, a very public breakup that he had shared. What was it that he made a YouTube video all about their relationship and their breakup and all of it? And he was in a state of heartbreak at the time, but he still very much believed in love. And it was all about his quest for love. Then fast forward years later, we are now talking to him about another breakup and how he still believes in love, but he's starting to question things a little more through all of these experiences.
By 45, which is the age he's at now, he's seeing patterns in his love life and starting to wonder. And a question that I think many of us can be asking ourselves is everyone cut out for long-term relationships? Is that for everyone?
It
right?
is a really good question because, I think like a lot of times we're programmed to believe like we need a date for love, for a relationship that ends up being for the long haul, whether that's marriage or just a partnership that lasts years and years and years. And it's almost like, oh, they're just like a bachelor or they're a player if they're looking for short-term relationships. And
Mhm.
for women, it's like unheard of, even though like people very much could enjoy short-term relationships. Ultimately, what we want people to get out of this episode is to think about if you want a relationship, how do you
Mhm.
want to operate? And then also like what do you have capacity for at whatever stage you are in your life?
And be okay with whatever you have capacity for. Don't feel like you have to be cut out for long-term relationships because many other people are. It's honoring where you are in the current stage in life. And I had this conversation with my aunt. She's here from China for the first time, her first time in the US. She's
Wow.
66. She's amazing. Like she looks and acts like she's 45. She's so young and so active. And we lost my uncle 5 years ago to really aggressive cancer. So she saw her husband really fade away in the course of a
Yeah.
month and a half. And it was probably the most devastating time of her life. And now looking back on her experience, she said to me when we're going for a walk, she's like, I know you're not married and I know that maybe you may never want to get married or have a long-term relationship. But she said there's something so beautiful about building 30 plus years with someone.
Yeah.
You have that rapport, you have history, you've watched this person grow. And even though their relationship was anything but perfect, she said what she treasures most is that they grew together for 30 plus years. And that was really
Yeah.
beautiful.
No, that is. And I think that's the question I have too is like, if you are drawn to more casual short term things, is it because you don't know the beauty that's out there because it's not something you've experienced? And like, what is better? Like, we only know what we know at the end of the day. I mean, I think there's a lot of excitement that comes from these shorter term, passion filled relationships that maybe can span within like a couple months to a year. But then after like the honeymoon period starts to wear off, absolutely relationships change. They do
Mhm.
get a little more boring. Like it
Mhm.
sounds so bad, but it really is. Like there's nothing to like talk about with your friends that you're questioning. If you are in a healthy relationship, like
Yeah.
boring could actually be a good thing. But for some people, they thrive off the excitement. And when it does get a little boring, it feels stale and boring.
Yes. And I think the old me would say, well, that person needs to get over that and know that relationships do get boring and to really look at themselves and think about like how you can change your mentality around relationships. But after this conversation with Ryan, I can honestly say maybe some people just thrive on the highs and they don't need the boring. They don't need the
Yeah.
domesticity of a relationship. And that is also okay. You do not need to change yourself if you feel that way.
So this is the question though that it keeps me up at night after having this conversation with him. It's like how much of it is that we know ourselves so well, we know what works for us versus that it's uncomfortable to try something different. It's uncomfortable to face fears. It's uncomfortable to get out of that comfort zone.
Mhm.
That's the question that's like overarching for me.
And I would love for everyone to remember that question as we go into this episode, because it is a question I am so conflicted about. I grapple
Yeah.
with this all the time. What do you have capacity for? And is it because you are not pushing yourself in that direction, or this is truly authentically who you are right now?
Right.
It's a hard question.
I think it comes down to like what is ultimately in your heart too. Like if
Yeah.
you know you really want to have a relationship that lasts 30 years and you want to have kids and a family, then when you're in those hard times, you can at least point back to that.
Yeah.
But if you're like, "Ooh, I think I want that stuff because that's what I've been told I should do," then maybe your heart really isn't in it and it makes it harder to like have that capacity.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. I think about my ex.
Yeah.
I was the longest relationship he ever had. We were together for 5 years. Even though he was married before, that marriage only lasted a year. So when we reached the 4 year mark, I remember him making this comment. He said, "So I guess this is it." And I was like, "What is it?" And he's like, "This is what a long-term relationship
Mm,
is." Because he had never passed that mark.
yeah.
Everything had been under 2 years before me. Even though with the previous wife, he felt like he was ready for forever. In my relationship, I think it proved that he didn't understand what a long-term relationship could mean and what it would feel like.
Well, for him, he wanted to just go out and party still. Like he wasn't fully there. But this is the question. I don't mean this in a bad way to your relationship, but it's the question we had for Ryan too. It's like, how much of it is wrong person versus like your own shit?
Yes.
Like and I don't know, we'll never know the answer to this, but like, would a relationship with someone else give him something that he was looking for deep down? Or is he just not cut out for what a long-term relationship means?
Exactly. And maybe you go through phases. I think that's what happens. Sometimes you're like, I'm not ready, and sometimes you are. But what is the scariest is when you are in a long-term relationship and you go through the phase of not wanting to be in one.
Yeah.
That's fucking
Well, I guess
scary.
like ultimately it's like you don't know until you're in it with anything. Yeah. Like you have to just dive in to some degree to test it out. And if you're doing the work to try to overcome whatever's barrier is there, whether that's going to therapy or doing some other kind of release in another way, and it's still not feeling authentic to you, then I think you at least have more data than if you're just like, I'm not going to try, or I'm not going to like try to work on this in any way.
Yeah, it's a lot of questions to ask yourself.
Yeah,
for all
we'll see
of
what
us.
you all think after you listen to this episode. It's like real-time processing the male brain and what it means, the difference of love and short-term relationships versus full-on commitment for the long haul. Different things.
And for anybody who may have dated a fuckboy or somebody who was not able to commit, don't feel like this is going to be one of those triggering episodes. I think what's so interesting about Ryan is he gets out of these relationships not because he wants to be with a bunch of other women. It's truly he has reached his limit. So, I don't think it's about like, oh yeah, this is how all men work. This is just a very nuanced way to look at what your relationship capacity is.
I think he's like an extreme too. Not everyone is out there doing like outdoor adventures, like, the adrenaline rush. I think there is like certain personality types too that might thrive off like the constant energy of newness versus others that like the predictability. For instance, my partner, like he's very regimented in the sense of he likes being on a schedule. He likes knowing what's happening. I think for people like that, a long-term relationship might actually be more conducive because it feels safe, it feels predictable.
Yeah.
But for someone that's like, I want to see what's around the corner every night, like then it might be a hindrance.
And if you are the latter, maybe it's time to stop saying, but I want to be in a relationship. If you thrive off of the initial 3 months and the falling in love period, but then that you're done after that, then stop trapping people into long-term relationships because you're not cut out for that.
But then is the solution just to say like, I'm not cut out for relationships? Like, I don't know if that's it either.
I think so. Like, I think people,
so?
I feel like people should come with a warning label. I know he
Ryan
did.
That.
Yes,
he does that, which I appreciate.
But as we all know, women will see that warning label as a suggestion. And,
I can change him.
I can change. Yeah, I'm the different one, and this is going to be different with us. So you can take that at whatever meaning that you want it to be. But I think we owe it to other people. If you know yourself well enough, we owe it to other people to tell them about what our limits are.
Yeah. I mean, I look back at a lot of my exes, and at the time I had this narrative like I'm not good enough for them to commit to. And I look back and they're all still single.
Exactly. It's
so
not about you.
Maybe they just don't have the capacity, and that's
right.
I was barking up the wrong tree. Maybe that's all it was.
You definitely were. That tree was not going to grow branches.
I was like, what does that say that literally none of my exes are settled down? They're all super single.
And it says nothing about you personally.
It says a lot about me, about who I chose, but that's
true.
Another story. Yes.
That's true. Yeah. Well, we can save that for our one-on-one
That's
Q&A.
another
we can dive into that.
That's a therapy session that we won't subject you all to.
We can talk about the savior complex another time. But for this one, one. We'll cap it at, we know we have the capacity.
We have one therapy session at a time. We're on Ryan's today.
We are the capacity for Ryan Van
Ryan's
Duzer.
like, am I in therapy right now?
He does say that. He does ask that. He knows every time he comes back on the show, it's going to be a therapy session.
He loves it.
Who doesn't?
No, we love Ryan. We're really glad he opened up the way he did. And, he leaves everything on good terms with all of his exes too, despite, maybe breaking their hearts in a way. Like it's a skill.
It's admirable. It's very admirable.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into it in much more depth with Ryan. But before we do, some quick announcements at Dateable Podcast. That's where we are on the interwebs. You can find us Instagram, but also YouTube, TikTok. We're everywhere. Come support us. It means a lot. And we also like talking to you. So feel free to shoot us a DM. Also, we have something very exciting in the pipeline that we will be announcing in a couple weeks. So we hear all of you. We've been listening to some of the challenges that you all have in your dating life. And we're really excited about this one because we think it'll be some instant benefits, especially as we get into spring.
Yes. We say it's exciting and we always say we have an exciting announcement, but this one is truly, truly exciting because we hear you all loud and clear.
Yes. We'll be revealing in the upcoming weeks. But you can go to our website and get on our mailing list so you're first to know.
Yes.
Okay. Well, before we get into it, let's hear a message from our sponsors.
Living with ADHD can be a challenge, and dating with ADHD is definitely a challenge, we've heard many of you say. But finding the right care and proper tools needed to succeed can be life-changing. Done is an online ADHD care platform that can get you all the resources you need to help manage your ADHD. Unlock your path to better focus with Done. Take a free 1-minute assessment and book an appointment with a licensed ADHD clinician as soon as the next day. Get continuous care, insurance coverage, and 24/7 care team support and pharmacy copays as low as $0. And because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, you can get 50% off your first consultation. That's just $99. Visit get.donefirst.com/podcast before the end of the month to take advantage of this deal. That's get.donefirst.com/podcast. Done. Turn ADHD into strength. Confession. I have a secret about how I've been able to update my wardrobe with only high quality but affordable pieces these last few years. And now I have to let the secret out because they're sponsoring this episode. It's called Quince. Yeah, if you know, you know. Quince has premium European linen dresses, gorgeous washable silk tops, luxurious cashmere, and the best part, they're priced at 50 to 80% less than similar brands because they partner directly with top factories. So no more middleman, and that's why it costs less to you. I know Julie got herself some nice cashmere pieces, and at only $50 a sweater, come on. And I recently ventured into home goods. I got myself some premium cotton percale sheets, ultra cooling, and just feels like a 5-star hotel every night. And it's so perfect for the upcoming hot months. So get warm weather ready with Quince. Go to quince.com/dateable for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dateable to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DATEABLE.
Okay, let's hear it from Ryan Van Duzer.
Blast from the past for so many reasons. Ryan Van Duzer, welcome back to Dateable.
Good to see you two again. This makes me happy.
We've all aged since the last time we spoke.
Not me.
What do you mean? Speak for yourself, Yui.
Yeah, that's true. You all age backwards. Apparently, Asians age backwards until we hit 40, and then we start aging forwards. That's how it works. But the last time we had you on the show was June of 2019.
Wow.
Way before this little thing called COVID happened.
Life has changed.
Yeah. So much. You are now in a new house that I just found out about, a big boy house in Boulder. But you are now 45 years old. So I've given all the stats. You're pretty single and you've been taking a dating sabbatical. And last time we spoke to you in 2019 on an episode called Quest for Love, you were just talking about how you had gotten over some really profound heartbreaks and you still believed in love.
Yes. And I still do.
You still do?
Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
Okay. That was going to be our big question because we know that you also went through another heartbreak in August. And the question for you is, do you still believe in love? But before we get into why you still believe in love, can you take us back to what happened in this last relationship?
My last relationship was with a wonderful human. I am still friends with her, and I'm very grateful for that. She is a larger than life personality. I met her through the running world. She's kind of a big deal in the ultra running world. And I always knew of her. And she was this super fit babe. And I would see her social media posts and I'd be like, wow, she's really cool, but she's obviously way too cool for me.
So how did you guys meet then?
Yeah, it's kind of an exciting story. I signed up for what's called the Leadville 100. It's a 100-mile running race outside of Leadville, Colorado, which is the highest town in America. So we're talking over 10,000 feet of elevation. So I was very excited to finally get into this race. It's a hard race to get into. And I tweeted something like, hey, I just got into Leadville. I'm so excited. And she responded saying, hey, if you need any help, let me know.
Oh.
And I was like, what?
Damn.
Amelia Boone, super babe of the ultra running world, wants to help me. And then I wrote her a DM saying, hey, are you serious? I would love a pacer. So in these long races, you have pacers that come later on in the race when you're falling apart and pooping all over yourself and you need somebody to help you through the dark times. And she's like, I would love to help pace you at mile 60 of Leadville.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, this is cool.
Wow.
But at the time, I didn't really think it would lead to anything. I just thought it was cool. Fast forward a few months to the race. The first time we ever really met in real life was at mile 60 of Leadville.
What?
Wow.
I had been running up and down mountains. I was exhausted, but I had the butterflies in my stomach. It was almost like a first date because I knew when I got to this aid station at mile 60, she would be waiting for me and she was going to accompany me for the next 15 miles.
That's epic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
So let me just get this straight. You've been watching her on like social media. She clearly has also been watching you. Like, is that kind of the gist of it?
I guess so. And you never think that somebody also watches you who's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, she's not going to know who I am, whatever.
But before you met her in real life, you two had been chatting.
A little bit, but not a lot.
Oh.
It wasn't very flirty. It wasn't.
Oh.
Yeah, it really wasn't what you think it might be. So when I first met her, it was like a first date at mile 60 while I'm falling apart and exhausted. And she ran with me through the night and helped me. When you pace somebody, they just kind of make sure that you're doing okay. And they help you make sure that you have all the nutrition that you need and that you're eating right. And that, so when she hands you off to the next person, you're ready to finish the race. Because it's 100 miles. She had me from about mile 60 to mile 75-ish.
So was it love at first sight, like delusional sight?
It was excitement for sure. And, I started talking to her like it was a first date almost because I was like getting to know each other.
Wow.
And it was really a fascinating experience.
You're able to speak?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not sure how many of our listeners are down to date at 60 miles in.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to get to know somebody. Well, in a funny way. You really see somebody at their worst right away.
That's true.
Not that I was cranky or, anything like that, but you're hurting pretty bad at that time and you're really vulnerable and you're very tender at those miles in a long race.
So was this something that she did for a lot of people, like come out and pace them? Okay.
That's a very good question. So she loves being part of the ultra running world and helping people, lots of times strangers. So just because she reached out and said she'd help me didn't really mean that she was interested in me.
Okay.
It wasn't until she saw me at mile 60, falling apart and crying that she's like, oh, this guy's the one for sure.
You really love meeting women when you're falling apart. Remember that reality show you were on?
Oh, that's right.
It was like a survival series where basically Ryan was crying the whole time because he was hungry and cold. And he also met a woman on that show.
This is your pattern.
When you were falling apart. Yeah, this is your idea of vulnerability. So you meet her at mile 60. She paces you for 15 miles. What happens during this time?
And then I go on and finish the race. I finish at like 4 a.m. I'm exhausted, but I'm also excited. I've just run 100 miles. And I text her saying, hey, thanks for all the help. Usually when you have a pacer, the runner will give you a gift or something because it's a big ask to ask somebody to drive all the way up to Leadville or some other race far away and spend that much time with you. So I was like, hey, I'd love to buy you dinner or something sometime. And that's kind of what started more of the flirty back and forth. And slowly, because I am not very smooth when it comes to this stuff with women. It took many, many months, but we finally did get together and it was pretty exciting.
So those months, was she also in Colorado or was she living somewhere else?
Yes. So I live in Boulder. She lives in Golden, which is just like 30 minutes away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So describe those months. Like, how did things progress into more?
Well, it took a while. So I did the race and then she said, yeah, we can get together sometime. And it took months to happen. And she reached out once and I couldn't hang out. And it really wasn't until December. So the race was in August. It wasn't until December. She was leading a group run at a running store here in Boulder. And I saw it on social media. And I was like, oh, Amelia's in town. I should go to this run and say hi. But I had already run that day myself. So I was like, I don't really need to run again. And then I was out to dinner with my mom and I was telling her about this. She's like, you should go. You should totally go. Because my mom's obviously a mom and she wants me to be happy and meet wonderful humans. So my mom kind of pushed me to go to this group run and I see her there and I ran with her and chatted, but she's supposed to be, talking to the whole group. She doesn't want to give me all her time. So she's fluttering around.
Right.
And then she texted me after the event and said, let's go for a bike ride. Because she knew obviously bikes are really the way to my heart. I love riding my bike. And then the next week we rode bikes together. She came to Boulder and we rode up to this really cute mountain town outside of Boulder called Gold Hill. And that was like our first real date. And we got to, we got to suffer together up a mountain. And now I was in my element because I was riding bikes and she's on a bike, which is not really her thing. So it was fun to share that moment.
And during this time, you and I, we weren't chatting, but I heard about this relationship through mutual friends. And it was definitely, it sounded very epic. And you two seem like the perfect fit in the world of struggling sports. Then what happened?
So after our Gold Hill ride, and that was where it really clicked for both of us. Like, oh yeah, we like each other. We all know that feeling where you're just like, woohoo, Because sometimes you like somebody, but you don't know if they like you back.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting world to live in. But I knew that she liked me. She kind of made it clear in a way. And so after Gold Hill, we hung out a few more times. And then our first kiss was on New Year's Eve, 2021, going into 2022.
Okay, so obviously the story is sad because we know it ends in heartbreak. So 2021, you said, was your first kiss?
Yeah.
How long did the relationship last before ultimately ending?
Pretty long for me. We broke up in August 2023. So a year and a half-ish, a little longer maybe.
Milestones that you hit during that relationship? Did you move in together?
We never moved in together. We were thinking about it. Didn't happen. She lived in Golden. I live here. She has a pretty strict corporate lawyer job. We could have made it happen if we really wanted to. No living together, but she's and still is a very important person in my life. I would say it's the most mature relationship I ever had. We were very open and honest, and I credit her with a lot of this. She is an excellent communicator. She's been through a lot of stuff in her own life, a lot of trauma. So she knows how to navigate tough situations. And so we never really fought, I would say, we never raised our voices at each other, which was really a beautiful thing. At this time, I was 43, 44 years old. I had been through many relationships. I feel like I had learned a lot and I was finally getting to use some of the wisdom that I had attained over the years.
Right.
And we had a really nice relationship. And also, which was a bonus, is we got to do things together. Because a lot of times I date people who don't match up in the athletic world at all.
Yeah.
Amelia is a much better athlete than me. She's faster than me at running. She's tough as nails. She's a world champion obstacle course racer. So we could go running together. We could go biking together, which was a really fun thing to share.
Obviously, like the lifestyle, that sounds all there. Was there anything else like that was different or similar from past relationships? Maybe like more in your emotional connection too.
Yeah, I used to drink alcohol back in the day, and a lot of connection I had with girls was through going out and partying and going to bars and being silly.
Mm,
I don't drink alcohol anymore. She barely does. So we had a lot of good, grounded time together
Mm,
where we didn't have the outside influences of alcohol.
that's huge.
So that was really neat.
right. That makes a huge difference, especially when you're doing such extreme sports too.
Absolutely.
And I assume like I love yous and all that was exchanged.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'll never forget the first day I told her I loved her. It's such an exciting and scary thing to say to somebody, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you don't know if they're going to say it back to you, if they feel the same way. But it was pretty hot and heavy from the very beginning. You know, I don't really date all that many people, or I haven't had that many girlfriends. Like I'm very picky. And so when I finally do find somebody extra special like Amelia was, it goes pretty quickly because I am all in. If I am into you and if I admire you and I am attracted to you, like it's full blast. I go turbo speed. And then she did as well. And so we said I love yous pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And it was exciting, of course, because she said it right back and woohoo.
Oh.
What's quickly? Like a day later? Just kidding.
Yeah, a day later. No, it was like a few months into our relationship,
Okay.
which is, I would think, somewhat quick.
Mhm.
Now that I am also, 45, like I said, it's like every relationship's a little bit different and some
Yeah,
move
right.
faster than others, but
When you know, you know.
that's right. Yeah, it felt amazing.
Well, this felt like it was such a great fit, and you seemed very happy. But then
Yeah.
we know the end.
We know the end. Yeah.
When did things turn the other direction?
I would say about a year into the relationship. And, we started going to therapy, looking for outside help because I've had this pattern throughout my other relationships where I fall hard and heavy pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure that she is the one, and we're going to get married and we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. And then for one reason or another, I start pulling away.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I've talked to therapists throughout the years about this pattern where I'm all in and then all of a sudden I'm not. And I pull away and I essentially
Mhm.
drive the relationship into the ground, which is an unfortunate thing. So this time around, I was like, Amelia is so special. I don't want to lose her. We're going to do therapy. We're going to fix this. I'm going to get over this. I'm going to finally break my pattern. I couldn't do it. Like there were some other things that kept pushing me away. And I just knew deep down, I've always been a person who listens to their heart. And my heart has always guided me in the right direction. And my heart was really saying no. And that was a serious battle I had with my heart. I'm like, wait, come on. No, this is it. Like
Yeah.
she's the one. Like, why am I feeling this way? And I couldn't get past it.
Mhm.
Was there anything you uncovered about yourself that kind of shed light into why you think this might be happening? Or was this truly just not the right person?
I have battled with this after so many relationships. Like, what is the deal?
Yeah.
And I don't truly know what it is. And I kind of fall back on, well, it's just my heart's telling me that she isn't the one. And as much as I try to force it,
Yeah.
it's just not going to happen. And if I did force it, I wouldn't be living authentically and true to myself. And I didn't want to break her heart. I knew how in love she was. And it was a very, very difficult breakup. I mean, it's no fun to crush somebody.
Was there a turning point? Can you pinpoint something?
Not really a turning point. There wasn't like one moment or some dramatic blow up or anything.
Yeah.
It was just a feeling I started to have where I was like, I don't know if I see myself living with this person for the rest of my life. And there was just something that pulled me away.
Without the idea of marriage or thinking about forever, would that affect your decision?
Yeah, I don't know. It might, where you don't have the pressure of being like, this is forever. Because I guess that's what scares me a bit is the forever. My life in general is very open and I have lots of freedom. I can do what I want whenever I want. I'm a freelance YouTuber now, was a filmmaker. I want to be able to have the freedom to get a phone call for a job and leave tomorrow and not have to answer to anybody. It sounds selfish, and it is. I want to be able to do whatever I want. And it's not that Amelia was ever against that. She made it very clear, like, hey, I know what your career is all about and I fully support you. She wasn't nagging on me ever, but it was just a feeling.
Did you find that in this relationship, when you start feeling the same feelings as before, was that a pattern that was familiar, or did this feel different?
Yep, it felt very familiar. And also at the very beginning of our relationship, I told her about all of these things that are fears of mine. These are my patterns. This has happened in the past. I just want you to know this. I'm going to try my hardest and do what I can, because I love you so much to get through this. So it wasn't like, she's like, where is this all coming from? When it started happening, when I started pulling away, she knew. She's like, Ryan's told me about this. And it scared her a lot, obviously. And it scares me. I'm like, oh no, I don't want this to be happening. Oh, you're the one. You are. Oh, crap. And it just, I couldn't shake it. In months and months and months of therapy and my own work on myself and trying to get over this. And I really just came to peace with the decision that this just really wasn't going to work long term for me.
And I mean, this is something that we won't even know on this episode of this. Is it your gut telling you this is the right choice versus repeating patterns? But do you feel like you have commitment or avoidant tendencies in other ways? Or is it really just come out in relationships? Or do you not even think it's avoidance or commitment?
Yeah, with women, this is definitely a pattern. But in my career life, if I'm excited about something, I will do everything I can to make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm a freelance filmmaker type guy. When I met Yue years ago, I wanted to be a TV host, and that was the track that I was on. That's kind of how I met Yue, really. And through many, many years of trials and hardship, I have made a career out of it now. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I'm not a TV host, but I am a YouTuber. And I get to share stories with the world that I feel are bringing value to my viewers. And that was always the goal. And YouTube didn't exist when I got a degree in broadcast journalism in 2003.
Right.
So I didn't even know this was something that I could do. And now that I do what I do, it's a total dream come true. But I've been so committed to it, this is what I'm going to do. I wake up every day and I work towards it. But that hasn't been the same pattern with women.
Okay.
It sounds like there are some parallels between the two, though. You set out to be a TV host and your career has shifted into something a little bit different, but you get to do what you love. You found a way to make your career yours. You're not at the mercy of other people. Same in a relationship. I think it sounds like you're setting out to want to find your forever, get married, all that. But then it's like that doesn't really fit into your lifestyle. So you're kind of DIYing what this forever relationship could look like for you.
Yeah.
You're still in the workshopping phase, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like I learn more, obviously, with every relationship I'm in. And all of my ex-girlfriends have been wonderful humans. I'm so grateful that they came through my life. I don't know if there is a one. I don't know if I will get married. Maybe that's not part of the cards. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Well, maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay that I don't find a partner. And that's all right.
I think it comes to where is it coming from? Is it that's your choice? That is a very viable path for people if they want to live a life that does not involve relationships, or is it being driven by fear? I think that's what it comes down to is it right for you?
Which is an interesting thing because fear plays a big role in my life in many ways. When I do these hard athletic events, when I'm running 100 miles or riding my bike thousands of miles, there's a lot of fear. It's very scary. So in one aspect of what I'm doing, I do overcome fear. I have to get to the finish line of these big athletic endeavors. But on the other hand, I haven't quite mastered fear in the realm of love and relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such an interesting point because fear in any other context has some sort of end result. All of those experiences you went through, there was a finish line. So you just had to get to the finish line. But in relationships, there is no end. There is no finish line. Yeah, you could get married, but that's not exactly a finish line. And you're constantly iterating on your relationship. I think this is something we all kind of struggle with is like, what is that we're trying to attain in a relationship?
Yeah. I mean, you put it perfectly. What are we looking for? What am I looking for? I ask myself these questions all the time. What is the point of it all? Why do I want a partner? Do I want to share my life with somebody?
Yeah.
Well, I already share my life with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I have great friends and great family
Yeah.
and community, and I don't feel a longing for love, really. I've never been on a dating app. I'm not like some guy
Yeah.
who's aggressively looking for somebody. Like, I'm pretty content in my everyday life.
Yeah.
So for somebody to come into my life and become a girlfriend or fiance wife, they need to be really extra special. And of course they all are, but I'm pretty happy
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Okay. So this is a very interesting though, because I feel like this started with recovering from heartbreak, even though this decision was yours. You were the one that basically ended it from what I'm hearing. I mean, I always think of like the heartbroken one is like the person that gets broken up with. Can you describe how you experienced heartbreak in this situation?
So I have just as hard of a time breaking up with somebody as I do being broken up with. It doesn't really matter. It crushes me. It flattens me. I really hate making people sad. And I knew in this instance, it was going to destroy her. She did not want this to end. And I knew that. And I tried everything that I could do to keep us together. But at the end of the day, I had to be true to myself and end the relationship. And it was so hard. And so what does it look like? It looks like a lot of tears and a lot of sobbing and a lot of sadness for many, many months after a breakup occurs. It's not like, oh, this great weight has been lifted off my chest. We finally broke up. Woohoo! It's not like that at all. I really take a long time to process breakups.
Well, because you truly wanted this to work.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like from day one, and it felt like fate did bring you two together.
Yeah.
For many people who are the ones breaking up with someone, they often think about, well, this is not the partner for me because the right partner for me is, and then they fill in the blank with XYZ. Were you able to do that? Like, she's not the right one for me, but the right one for me is this person?
Yeah, I don't know who that person is, because I thought she was the one.
Yeah.
Every time I meet somebody and I really truly fall in love, I'm like, she's the one. You know me, you, eh?
Yeah.
Yes. You've had many of the ones.
I feel like I don't even know you that well, but from the last episode.
Yeah.
Well, because you do fall hard.
Yeah.
You do. And you're fully in it. And I think it shows in the work that you do too. You're very passionate and a loving person, but there's just not sustainability in these relationships. I struggle with this in relationships, which is like, I need freedom. Freedom is my number one partner. And then my partner is my second partner. I feel like you and I are kind of similar in that. But I also feel like the right partner does enable me to be more free, but we just have to be very intentional about that. And have you ever felt the kind of freedom in a relationship before?
I guess I did in this most recent relationship. She made it clear from day one, hey, Ryan, I know your career. I know what's important to you. I'm never going to get in the way of that. If you have to tell me you're leaving for 2 months, I will understand that and I will be okay with that. So she really made it clear. And not only did she give me that permission, but since she's such an awesome athlete, I could do some of these adventures that I usually do alone with her.
Yeah.
So we got to share these experiences together. So in a way, she was the perfect one. And this is why I was like, okay, finally, all the stars have aligned and I met my person who's an amazing human. Even, take away all the athletic achievements. She's an amazing human, a great heart. She's beautiful. She's kind and caring and open and communicative. And you're probably thinking, dude, go get her back.
Well, yeah, she does sound perfect for you.
But there was something that wasn't right with it. And I felt that. And again, I trust myself. I truly do.
Right. I think it's like, that's always the debate. It's like, we don't want to say like, don't trust yourself, but it's also like, where is this coming from? I know this is an interview for Ryan, but I actually am curious, Yue, like how you were able to shift that into seeing freedom in relationships. Because I know this is something that comes up for a lot of people. And I'm curious, like what shift you made.
I used to think going into relationships, I needed to have a lot in common with someone. and have these shared interests. And then I made the shift in this last one, knowing that I just need to take care of myself and my needs. So I don't necessarily need to share the same interests. In fact, I want the freedom to go pursue my interests that are outside of my partner's interests. And I think that's actually allowed me more freedom to explore and express myself, which is probably a little counterintuitive. It does make sense to want to share a lot of these activities with your partner, but unlike at the point where I don't really need to or want to do that. And that's where I find my freedom is the alone time.
Interesting.
Every relationship is different. You walk away from one relationship thinking, well, I could have really used more of this. So I'm going to look for that in my next one. And then your next one, you get more of that. But then you're like, well, I could also use a little bit more of that. You just don't know till you're in these relationships on what works for you. Ryan, for you, where are you now? Now that we've gone through, like when I say we, the collective we've all gone through Ryan Van Duzer's relationships and these heartbreaks and meeting these women that I think are perfect for you, but then not sustainable for the future. So where's your head at now? I know you were like, maybe the future is single.
Yeah. It's been enough time since the breakup that I feel better now. After a breakup where you just kind of like this low level sadness for quite a long time. And it's hard to be present in any situation. It's hard to go to parties and be happy and celebrate because I'm not in the celebrating mood when I'm sad and I'm working through a heartbreak because it really was heartbreak.
Yeah.
So it's been enough time now that I feel pretty good and grounded. And I feel like I'm becoming more me again. I'm not sad Ryan anymore. So where am I now? I don't know exactly. I'm not looking for love. I'm open to it. I'm always open to magic, of course. I live my life in a little realm of magical realism in a way where I want magic to happen. I want to meet somebody, or even just on my adventures when I'm out and I see a beautiful sunrise or sunset, or I meet somebody amazing on the trail and I call it trail magic. And I have this intense experience with somebody for 5 minutes in the middle of nowhere, Montana, and then I go on my way and I never see them again. Like, I love magic. So I'm open to it, but I'm not like actively searching.
Thoughts on marriage?
I'm open to it for sure, but I don't have this underlying feeling that I need to get married to be a whole person. Of course, society tells us so many things that you need to get married, you need to have kids and all this blah, 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 blah. But there's a lot of ways to do life. When you're younger, I think you're like, well, I have to get married because my parents were married and they had kids, and all the successful people I know are married and have kids, like the Obamas and whoever else we look up to, right?
Right.
Is that a shift from this relationship, or were you already kind of there before this relationship even?
I may have been there before this relationship, but then along came Amelia and I went for it. I was like, wow, this is exciting. And I only live life once. I want to investigate all of these opportunities that might be extra special.
Yeah.
And so that's why I threw myself at this opportunity with Amelia.
I know you mentioned like during the relationship, you were in therapy trying to get to the root of some of this stuff. Is that work you're still doing, or have you kind of just leaned into, I'm going to just trust how I'm feeling and trust my gut and not necessarily try to like, quote unquote, fix it?
Yeah. Throughout the years, I've gone to therapy on and off. Not a ton. I mean, I know some people that go every single week and spend tons of money doing this. And I do find that there is a lot of benefit in therapy. There's no doubt. The number one thing for me, I think therapy has done for me is help me communicate with my partners in a way that's loving, because it's so easy to get mad or to get defensive. And I think that's how I used to react to things when things came up that pissed me off or threatened me or made me feel unsafe. And so now I feel like I'm a better communicator because of therapy, but it's not something that I do all the time. I really just work on myself. I have a lot of alone time in the woods on my adventures to figure out life.
And then what about just love in general? Like any new takes on love?
So I live my life with a lot of love in general. I love my life. I love my family. I love my friends. I love my job. Like, I'm truly so fortunate to do something that I deep down love. I'm all about love, but I haven't found a partner in the traditional sense to love, in the sense of it's a long-term marriage or something like that. So I do feel like the love that I have in my heart, the love that I live with every day, will come in handy someday when I do meet somebody else. And maybe the next somebody else will be the one, and maybe they won't. And so I think now at this point in my life, I don't come into a relationship thinking, okay, finally, now I'm going to be 47 years old. I have to make this one work because I'm old now and I don't have many more shots at this.
I'm curious, like, your thoughts on gender here, because I think there are like stereotypes out there that like men can be bachelors forever and just keep having relationships, and women dry out. Not saying that that's true, but that's the stereotype that's out there. It's terrible, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I think it's very unfortunate that our society puts that type of pressure on women. I have a lot of friends, Amelia included, that don't like feeling like they have to have a partner or a husband or children to be, whatever you want to call it, a whole person. There's a lot of people who choose not to have partners and choose not to have kids. Women choose not to have kids. And they get a lot of flack for it. And it's really unfortunate. But that's society kind of telling us throughout millennia that this is the way it's supposed to be. Even people look at me, they're like, wow, Ryan's 45. He's this really successful guy. There must be something wrong with him because he's 45 and single and can't seem to make it work.
Right.
And another interesting point is a lot of my relationships are on my YouTube channel as well. These girlfriends I meet are introduced through my channel, and I show my excitement with my viewers, and then they become emotionally involved in these women as well because they love them, because they love me, and they want to see it work. And then when it doesn't work, I get a lot of criticism. They're like, dude, what's your deal? This girl's perfect for you. So there's a lot of interesting pressure even there, making my relationships so public. And a lot of people are like, well, maybe the next time you shouldn't make it public. But it's like, nope, that's my life. Like, if I'm excited about something, I'm going to tell the story about it.
I was going to ask you, do you have a drive to try something different? Like, I'm just thinking, like, you have a pattern of rushing into things and then it petering out. Is that something that you're like, oh, maybe next time I'll go a little slower at the beginning? Or are you like, nope, that's who I am. That's what I'm going to keep doing.
Look at that smile.
You see my head nodding. Nope. No, I mean, just like anything in life, I go for it full blast. If I'm training for a race, if I'm creating a new video or trying to accomplish a new challenge, like, I go for it all the way. And that goes with relationships as well. And not just romantic relationships. So I do feel like the next time I meet somebody that's really extra special, it's going to be a very similar situation where I'm like, here we go. Let's see if this works, essentially. Because that's what you do in life. You want to explore and experiment and see if it works. Just because I fall hard and heavy doesn't mean that it's going to work. And that goes for anything in life, professionally too. I can try my hardest, but it's just not going to be in the cards.
I want to dive into this even more, but before we do, let's take a quick break to hear from our partners. Spring is in the air, and you know what adds an extra spring to my step? Our partners at Via Hemp. Need to chill out after a long day? There's a Via gummy for that. Dealing with anxiety or stress? There's a gummy for that too. Want to set the mood in the bedroom? There's a gummy for that called High Love. Via also carries a wide array of other gummies with and without THC, ranging from 0 to 100 milligrams. I've been struggling to stay focused lately, so I was excited to try out their Flow State gummies. These felt like a good bet to me too, because they were non-psychoactive and THC free. But they definitely delivered, boosting my daily energy and focus. So whether you're a 2 milligram or a 50 milligram user, you can shop through their website for any strength and effects. So head to Via Hemp and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off and one free sample of their award-winning gummies. 21 plus. That's VIIA bluelandhemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with high love from Via Hemp. Did you know we're eating and drinking roughly a credit card's worth of plastic a week? Yep, that's right. Blue Land set out to do something about it, eliminate the need for single-use plastic in the cleaning products we reach for the most. I'm absolutely obsessed with Blue Land for a couple of reasons. 1, how they're helping the environment. 2, how convenient they make my life. And 3, how freaking beautiful their pastel containers are. All you have to do is fill your reusable bottles with water, drop in the tablets, and wait for them to dissolve. You'll never have to grab bulky cleaning products on your groceries run again. My partner was a little skeptical the other day if the dishwasher tablets would work as well as the pods we usually use, but after the dishes came out sparkling clean, he was sold as well. It's not only super convenient, but Blue Land is also affordable. Refills start at just $2.25, and you can even set up a subscription or buy in bulk for additional savings. Blue Land has a special offer for listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/dateable. You won't want to miss this. blueland.com/dateable for 15% off. That's blueland.com/dateable to get 15% off. If you love Dateable, we have a podcast you have to check out. Seeing Other People was created to help you feel less alone and more empowered by your dating life. Hosted by your soon-to-be favorite internet big sis, Alana Dunn, an early Hinge employee, modern dater, and now a fiance, is here to guide you through whatever you're going through. And she covers the gamut of topics, from anti-dating rules, how she went from being an anxious dater to in a secure, healthy relationship, and navigating dating burnout. On Tuesdays, Alana brings on expert guests like dating coaches, matchmakers, psychologists, and more. And on Thursdays, Alana is joined by anonymous real-life daters who bear it all and open up about what they faced in their love lives and what they wish they knew going through it. Seeing Other People will help you change your dating mindset, develop healthy dating habits, and make you feel like you actually can find what you're looking for. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday.
The complexity of this conversation that we're bringing to light is that the narrative most people have about a perpetual bachelor is that you can't be with one woman. You have to be with multiple women. You have to be out there sleeping with multiple women and just spreading yourself to as many women as possible. What you're saying is that's not exactly the case. You may be labeled as a perpetual bachelor, but not for those reasons. You are just trying to explore relationships in the most authentic way. And it just so happens that they don't work out for the long run. That's what I'm hearing.
Thank you. That was a really good way to put it, Yue. Because, I'm not a serial dater. I'm not on the dating apps. I'm not going to the bars and hooking up. And it's not because, I've been with this person for a year and a half and I'm kind of bored with them, so I want to find somebody else. That's really not it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess with all these relationships and heartbreak, what have you learned about yourself outside of what you've shared of maybe, I don't need marriage. I don't need the long haul. Is there anything else you've shared about what you need in a relationship?
I need somebody that, of course, pushes me and challenges me. I want somebody to hang out with when I'm not on a scary adventure, just to watch movies with and just be cozy. Every moment doesn't have to be a grand, huge, YouTube-worthy moment, right? I just want somebody to hang out with and enjoy life with and ride bikes with downtown to get some burritos and just the simple joys of life and lay in a field and pick some flowers and look at the sunset. The simple things in life. That's really all I want. I doesn't need to be a high-profile person, even though my last relationship was. It could be anybody.
I'm also remembering the other relationship that you had where you were convinced she was the one and she broke things off. You really tried everything you could to get her back. So I'm also wondering if there's a little bit of a push and pull you need in a relationship too. Maybe it's not game playing, but someone who's all in all the time may not offer that for you. I don't know.
I feel like I'm in therapy now. Thank you, ladies.
I think that's what I'm struggling with this whole conversation is how much of it is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone versus knowing yourself and being nope, I trust myself versus I feel this coming up. And you've probably gone through this already, but that's just what I'm struggling with, of like the takeaway of this is like, where does that sit for you?
And I know it doesn't really make sense. And I'm sure all the listeners are like, well, what's your deal, buddy? Because it doesn't, when I speak it out loud, it's like, wait, you had everything you wanted. Why didn't it work?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I make a living pushing myself out of my comfort zone.
Right.
In physical and mental ways where I really have to dig deep to
but
get
not
through.
Emotional. I mean, that's different. It's different.
Yeah. Absolutely. It is a different thing. And all I can say to that, and what I've kind of come to the conclusion is there's just something in me that in my heart, in my gut, that steers me in a different direction and tells me something like, hey, this is just not right.
Maybe it comes down to what you ultimately want. Because what I'm hearing from you is maybe it isn't the marriage and kids and more settled lifestyle.
Yeah.
So when you see things going in that direction, it feels wrong. Maybe like it is finding that partner that's either more temporary or like isn't going down that lifestyle with you, because that ultimately isn't what you want.
And these are the questions I grapple with. And I still haven't figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, most of us will never really figure it out because it's this constant conflict inside of us. Is it what my heart wants? Is it what my head wants? Is it what society wants? What is it? I guess as an outsider who's not in your head, Ryan, I just feel like you live for the epic moments. And those epic moments mean a lot to you. They bring you magic and connection. And when you say you want the mundane moments with someone too, I'm not so convinced about that. I feel like those mundane moments are only good to you for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And then they fizzle out for you.
Gets boring.
And maybe, and maybe your relationships are meant to be 1 year at a time. There's a climax and then boom, they burn out. And then the next one from a climax and burn out.
Yeah, maybe I should try polyamory. That seems to be the cool thing right now.
I mean, that's the thing is like everyone needs to find what works for them. Ultimately, I think it needs to come from like, this is authentically right for me though, versus like, I'm not willing to confront something. And maybe that is the deciphering point is like, is it because I want this lifestyle and this isn't aligned versus like, I'm scared to go to the lifestyle I actually want. It's deep.
Yeah.
He's like,
I'm just kind of taking it all in. Like, yep, you are right.
I'm also curious too, and we'll never know this until it happens, is like, will there be a day that you just meet someone and it all changes for you? Or will no one ever be that person?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, who knows? And I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's to keep going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And try again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things in my life, athletic endeavors, that it took me a long time to finally accomplish them to get to the finish line. Maybe the love finish line or starting line, if you want to call it, is my greatest challenge in life.
Yeah. It goes back to, is it the right person or the right time, ultimately?
Yeah.
Well, you are making progress in every relationship. It's not like you're repeating the exact same relationship over and over again. Sounds like through all of these relationships is a vehicle for you to better your communication skills, better your emotional connection skills. I think that there's still progress made within yourself. And then maybe that's what relationships offer to you. It's just ways for you to better yourself.
That sounds a little bit selfish because I love bettering myself, of course, but I don't want to do that at the expense of other people. Like, hey, for the next year, you're going to help me learn about myself. But it's probably going to end in heartbreak and tears. So sorry, just saying that up front,
Yeah.
I want it to be more mutually beneficial, of course. But I guess when you go into a relationship, you never know how it's going to end up. No. You both put your best foot forward and try your hardest. And we use our wisdom that we've learned throughout life to navigate problematic situations. And we just hope that it works. And we keep trying harder.
I mean, I'll be honest. I feel like this is my worst fear of just like one day someone just being like, yep, not into this anymore. I was so in love with you and now I'm just not into it. Like, what is your response to that?
God.
My response is, I'm sorry.
I am that guy. No, but to your credit, Ryan, you did
talk about it.
you know that this is a pattern of yours, so you communicated this and over-communicated this early, and you let her know at the first sign of it happening. So I appreciate that because, you know, in my last relationship, I feel like it came out of nowhere, even though he had been going through it probably for a while.
Yeah.
I wish I had known at the first onset of these symptoms. So I appreciate that. You know, you're not blindsiding people.
Yeah. And I do try to be as upfront as possible with every relationship that I'm in because I want to minimize the pain that may occur down the road. With Amelia, it was apparent. I started talking to her about it and I was like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. And this is scary for me.
Yeah.
Because I've been here before and I know how it ends. But I want to try to make this work with you because you're that special. You're that important to me. And we tried and it just didn't work out.
No, I agree. I think like sharing that truth, even though it's hard, but that is what's honest about. And honesty and trust and all that are so paramount in any relationship. So I do also commend that you brought that up early.
You know, there are two schools of thought here. One is you're very honest from the beginning that relationships do change, you will evolve, and there is a possibility of two people evolving out of a relationship. The second school of thought is, yes, you admit that people do change, relationships do change, but if you make a commitment, you will commit to making it work, whatever that may take. And maybe that takes a few months of really not being in the relationship, but then still working through it to get back on the same path together. There's no right or wrong answer to any of this. I'm just talking out loud, but that's what I always struggle with. Is like, is a commitment enough to make a relationship work?
I mean, I was having this conversation kind of on similar vein is like when you recognize something good, do you just go for it and just be like, yep, it might not be perfect. There might be some issues, but we'll work through them and just make our life work? Or do you hold out for this quote unquote, like perfect person to exist? Like, what is the balance with all of this stuff?
And it definitely is a balance. And of course, there is no perfect person. I'm not perfect, but I'm not looking for perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us are who are truly mindful about life and how everything works. Nothing's perfect, but I want somebody that there's some magic with. There's something extra special. Like, you know, I have ended relationships. I've been broken up with. I haven't really had that many girlfriends compared to people my age who might have a couple girlfriends a year. Like, I'm fairly picky. So I really trust my gut and my heart when I meet somebody to actually go that extra step and be like, okay, I want to commit to this person. But I also trust when it doesn't feel right.
And that is something that you do need to honor. Like, I think being able to recognize when it doesn't feel right, like even if it's on paper the best relationship ever, like you said, all these people are like, why did you end it? You guys were great together. We don't know what you're feeling deep inside. Like, we'll never know that. So I think it's being honest about it. I think the question to Yue's point is like, how long do you let that ride out versus like making the call?
Yeah.
And that's probably up to individuals.
What advice would you give to someone who is in a similar boat as you, maybe experience one too many disappointments? We won't even call them heartbreaks. Disappointments. You thought someone was really it, and then it ended up not being it. And then you go through so many of those. What advice would you give to them?
I would tell them, hey, we only live this one beautiful life. If you meet somebody who you think is special, if there's somewhat of a spark, I say go for it. Because some people do get jaded. They're like, oh, I'm never going to do this again. The pain is not worth the joy and the love. And they become a little closed off to the world and closed off to love. But I think the more love we allow into our hearts through everyday relationships, and especially through love relationships, I think you got to go for it.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always lived my life is you have to see. You don't want to live with any regrets. Like, give it a shot. Like, the worst that can happen is that you'll break up and it's not going to work, which does suck. There's no doubt.
Right.
But you will have had some beautiful time with this human.
Yeah.
And I look back on my relationships, and I've said this many times already in this podcast, I'm really grateful for all of these women and all the experiences we've had. and the things that we've learned together. And I'm still friends with all of my exes, very close friends.
Well, that says a lot too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're a part of my life.
I mean, I have so many takeaways from this conversation. I think part of why I was like pushing so hard in certain areas too is to just try to understand more, because I think ultimately, you know, we need to do what's right for us. And it's hard to know, like, is it like listening to my gut? Is that what's right? Or should I be pushing myself in a different way to overcome my fears and do things differently? Honestly, we'll never answer that question for anyone. Like, individuals need to. But I think getting clear of like what it is in life that you want and not feeling like you have to go a certain way, if that is truly what you want, then I think honoring that is important, because that's where maybe the disconnects happen. If you feel like you want to live this like untethered life, and then you start to feel the 1.5 year mark when things are getting a little more domesticated, maybe that really is anti to what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would encourage people to really think about what they ultimately want. And if it's that they do ultimately want to settle down and have a family and do all that, but they're just scared, I think that's different. That's something maybe you should push through a little more if it feels unfamiliar, but you want it deep down in your core, versus you don't really want that, or you're not sure if you want that, feeling like you have to fit into that.
Well said.
It's a journey for everyone, I guess.
It definitely is a journey.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful, hard, scary, heartbreaking journey.
And there's no right or wrong. I think that's something we all, for women, for men, for whatever gender or sexuality you are, ultimately there is no right or wrong. Like, it's what works for you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I also want to honor the people that I'm with. I don't want it always to be, you know, what's right for me.
Yeah.
I want these relationships to obviously make an impact on my partners as well. And I hope that they're out there talking to friends about, hey, I had this boyfriend Ryan once, and he was really a good guy, and it didn't work out, but we had a lot of great times together, and we learned a lot together, and we saw a lot of the world together. So I want my girlfriends, ex-girlfriends, to also feel good about what we're doing together.
Yeah. It's like defining success in a relationship.
My big takeaway is there's no finish line to love. We can work as hard as we want in our careers and hit those milestones, but I just don't think there's a finish line to dating and relationships. We're constantly living life for one reason alone, which is just connection. I think that magic, that connection, experiencing these moments with someone else, that's what matters. And I think what I'm taking away from your experience, Ryan, is like those moments outweigh what the end result may be, because we can really treasure those shared moments with someone. So dating for a finish line will ultimately end in some sort of disappointment.
I mean, I think the saying I always go to, though, is choose your heart.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is like, what do you ultimately want? Because it's hard to be in a relationship, but it's also hard to be on your own. So you have to decide, what heart are you going to go for?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Is this hopeful? Is this hopeless for people? I don't know.
I think it's very hopeful.
I think it's hopeful.
It's very
for sure.
hopeful, because the elusive forever is hopeless in my mind. It's like, how can we control that? But what is hopeful is the now, the present, what we can control today, and the relationships we can foster today. So that's very hopeful for me, at least.
And I mean, I guess like Ryan, like ultimately you started off that you still believe in love, even though all this has happened.
Oh, yeah. I still believe in love big time. And I know that I will love again. And I still love my ex-girlfriends in a way.
Yeah.
Not in, romantically anymore. But I live for love. My whole life is about love. I love sharing stories of love on my YouTube channel, like connection to other humans and to nature. And I'm really a big believer in this.
Thanks, Ryan, for coming back and telling us what's going on, updating us about your love life. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
My YouTube channel is really where I put my heart and my soul. It's youtube.com/DuzerTV. If you just put my name into a Google search bar, everything will pop up.
Nice. people can follow a love on your love journey
Yeah.
because you put it on
Yes, they
YouTube.
can. And they can criticize me like everybody does on my channel.
But whatever. Just give him the
Whatever.
views. Just give
You're
him
like,
the
this
views.
is what helped me buy my home. I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. Keep pumping up that algorithm, baby.
All right, cool. Well, thanks again for coming on our show. Thanks for our listeners for coming along for the Duzer ride. We would love to have Duzer back, probably.
We're
as
having
well.
you
We'll
back. We're following this journey. We're invested
keep
now.
You two are amazing. Thank you for what you're doing and for what you're putting out into the world. This is truly a gift.
You too. And you have a gift to give. Thanks for sharing it with everyone. And our listeners, if you enjoy this episode, why don't you give us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts? In the review, you can tell us about what you learned about Duzer. Like, give us your thoughts about Duzer. Why not? He's putting his life out there for the public to critique. So just tell us what you think about Duzer.
Be gentle. Be gentle.
Yeah, be gentle. But you know what? We will filter the information and give it to you. So you don't have to read the raw comments. All right, we're going to wrap up this episode.
Stay
dateable. The Dateable Podcast is part of the Frolic Media Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Dateable Podcast and visit dateablepodcast.com for access to all the episodes and our premium programs. Also, make sure to subscribe today if you haven't already on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform so you are the first to get all the latest episodes. And most importantly, stay dateable.